interrupt this program to bring you Courage, the Cowardly Dog Month.
Whole month of Courage, the Cowardly Dog. First appearing in 1996, it was picked up by Cartoon Network, who work in the middle of Burbank, and directed by cartoonist John Dilworth. Though many years have passed since the original air date, it's now time for Zack to celebrate this great show.
Well, old sport, what do you think? Me. Hey guys, Zack Mars here, and welcome back to Courage Month. So we've got 2 episodes to review for you guys. Squatting Tiger, Hidden Dog, and Muted Muriel. So let's get into both of those. Okay, so this first episode, Squatting Tiger, Hidden Dog, is kind of a reference to a Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. But the episode opens off with the Evil Empress of Japan, the Evil Empress. And she only speaks in Chinese. But fortunately, we have Dilong, who is revealed to actually be of royal heritage in this episode. Just adding to the list of things I didn't think he was. I just thought he was some sort of delinquent character, and now we've learned that he is the exact opposite of those things. But in any case, the Evil Empress summons Dilong to the main chamber of her castle, and while we don't actually know what the Evil Empress is actually saying to Dilong, he's there to actually kind of fill in the blanks by semi-translating for her. And what we find out is that the Evil Empress has actually lost the source of her power, a magic silkworm, which has ascended into the heavenly light and is now dying. So in order to regain her power, the Evil Empress needs the bones of somebody pure and innocent. So Dilong leaves to go find somebody who matches that description. So and as it happens, the bags happen to be in China. They're on the Great Wall, and Muriel is actually admiring it, while Eustace is kind of struggling to understand the purpose of it, because obviously it's the Great Wall of China. He doesn't fully understand why it's there or what it's supposed to be. I mean, in reality, the Great Wall of China was, I think, used to actually defend against intruders back when China actually needed to defend itself. Nowadays, not so much, because nowadays we're a lot more civilized, and usually we don't resort to war unless we absolutely have to. But yeah, back in the day, China built a wall to defend itself, and now it's just a national and now it's just one of the 7 wonders of the world. So in any case, they're admiring the thing when Dilong eventually shows up and sees Muriel, who he realizes is someone pure and innocent, and actually rushes after them to try and close the distance between himself and Muriel, even reciting his catchphrase in the process while he kicks Courage away from him so that he can actually get a clear shot at Muriel, and then claims that he is actually a tour guide there to actually help Muriel learn more about the Great Wall of China, which Eustace is less enthused about, but Muriel said that a tour would actually be lovely, at which point Dilong pulls out a frog and has it blow a bubble that imprisons Muriel and sends her flying off, and with that, he then proceeds to leave and runs back to the palace. Meanwhile, Courage has witnessed this whole thing, and realizing he can actually use the same method Dilong used to actually transport Muriel away to the palace, proceeds to stomp on the frog to make it blow a bubble, and proceeds to climb inside of it so he can actually follow Muriel to wherever it is she went. At which point it comes back to the Evil Empress's palace, where she has since captured Muriel and has actually hung her from the ceiling, and Muriel doesn't fully understand what's happening at first, believing that she's just in a hammock and that they're showing her some sort of hospitality. But Dilong merely remarks that he's actually going to be deboning her to actually channel the power of the magic silkworm, which she believes is just a local custom and doesn't fully understand what kind of danger she's in. But then Courage actually shows up in his own personal bubble and tries to plead with the Evil Empress to let Muriel go. But the Evil Empress obviously has no interest in actually letting Muriel go, so she then uses her magic to actually teleport Courage out of the palace by making it spin, and also in the process making him spin. And he and the silkworm box are actually transported out of the palace and into a noodle shop, where he's greeted by the owner of the noodle shop, who proceeds to actually realize that he's on a great journey, and asks him how he would be willing to pay for the soup. And Courage, having brought the silkworm box with him, proceeds to present it to the woman, who merely shows him various visions using the soup for the noodles, and proceeds to explain how she understands what he's going through, and that he has to go on a great journey to actually get where he wants to go. So she proceeds to explain the situation about how she knows what he's going through, and points out that in order to do that, he'll have to actually grow as a person and actually learn how to actually defend himself in the face of danger. So at which point she tells him to actually go on his journey, and Courage tries to jump into the bowl of soup thinking it's a portal, but then the woman actually explains that it is indeed not, which makes Courage laugh nervously because he realized he was being stupid. But in any case, then the real first step of Courage's journey presents itself, which is that there's a tiger currently loose in the middle of the town, and it actually has a young girl dangling from its jaws. So the woman actually tells Courage to actually go deal with the tiger and actually defeat it, claiming that to defeat the tiger is to enter its jaws. So what Courage does is he covers himself in soup and garnishes, and the tiger sees him as appetizing and decides to drop the little girl from his jaws and actually eats Courage instead. With the woman actually telling Courage that by thinking of the pleasant memories and a pleasant image, he can actually relax himself and actually just slip out of the tiger's jaws. And Courage does exactly that by picturing Muriel in a rocking chair, which does calm him enough that he actually literally turns into goo and just melts out of the tiger's jaws. At which point, the people of the small village actually pick up the tiger and throw it back in its cage. And the woman actually does thank Courage on his journey, and tells him that the next phase of his journey is just begun, and points to a cart that Courage then realizes he needs to climb in the back of, much to his chagrin, and climbs in the back of it and proceeds to ride off out of the village, with the woman commenting that he's one stupid courageous dog. At which point Courage is actually riding in the cart, and he discovers that there's actually a band hiding under the blanket in the back of the truck, and they ask him to actually play along with them, and he does. He actually pulls out a jug, grabs a jug from nearby, and actually starts blowing into it to make music with them. But then a bunch of poison darts start shooting at him in the back of the truck, and the band realizes that they're in danger and that they're poison darts, and case in point, the darts hit a tree and the tree just melts and falls apart. And they realize that, and believing that the people sending the poison darts are actually musicators, climb back under the blanket, while Courage climbs back inside his jar, and the jar winds up falling off and breaking. And the darts are still attacking him, so he uses part of the jar to actually defend himself from the darts. At which point the woman appears, this time as a bird, and tells Courage that his next lesson is to figure out how to use the enemy strength for himself. So what he does is he catches one of the needles in his teeth, which then causes another needle to get stuck on it, and so on and so forth. And though Courage actually winds up making a bridge out of poison darts, and proceeds to actually use that to cross the cliff where he's currently stuck, and proceeds to race into a bamboo forest, where he eventually reaches the entrance to the Evil Empress's palace, which is currently guarded by a dragon. At which point he learns his third and final lesson, which is to take the enemy's strength and use it against them. So what Courage does is he opens his mouth, the fire from the dragon goes into it, and then Courage spits the fire back at the dragon, killing it. So at which point the woman then shapeshifts back, then proceeds to actually disappear, having taken the form of a dragonfly, and tells Courage that he's ready to finally face the Evil Empress, and tells him to go and finish his journey. And Courage does. He winds up kicking the door down to the Evil Empress's palace, as D-Lung is still halfway through deboning Muriel, with Muriel remarking that it's a little bit relaxing, but with D-Lung merely remarking that that's the kind of effect that not having your bones would work on. But in any case, Courage and the Evil Empress then proceed to face off, with the Evil Empress believing that Courage is in no way able to actually defeat her, and the two actually do get into a brief fight, with the Evil Empress actually trying to face off against Courage using various weapons, but Courage just being able to just completely return her attacks against her, and actually successfully defending himself. And he does get into the point where he's actually getting into a fighting match with the Evil Empress, and in the process he actually learned how to do kung fu throughout all of this, which is very reminiscent of the actual movie that this is based on. But then D-Long puts a shackle around Courage's ankle, which causes him to stop, which stops him from actually facing off against the Evil Empress, and the Evil Empress starts shooting lasers from her eyes, which Courage uses to both free himself and then uses a mirror from the wall to actually redirect the attack back at her, thus defeating her and destroying her. At which point, the mysterious noodle shop owner actually appears and is revealed to actually be the good Empress of China, which D-Long realizes is bad for him, and decides to completely deny the fact that he was ever working for the Evil Empress to begin with, and fixes Muriel, mostly, sort of. He winds up flipping one of her arms and one of her legs, but he does wind up putting her bones back, because he's scared of the good Empress. And the good Empress then proceeds to point out that now, thanks to Courage, peace has returned to China, and now that peace is returned back to their land, that the country can now begin to heal. And Muriel, now having mostly been returned to normal, Muriel remarks that she's happy to have experienced such a happy and peaceful and magical land, with the episode ending on Kurt and Eustace having his bones and legs eaten by the tiger from earlier, with the tiger just kind of scoffing, pointing out, yeah, peaceful. So, yeah, this episode is just kind of fun in that Kurt's just low-key learns kung fu throughout this episode. It's a really fun episode, and it is reminiscent of another thing that with the similar name. So it is kind of a really funny movie parody on top of that, and I do like that. I do like that they actually just threw in a movie parody, but. Yeah, it's an interesting episode. I did very much like it, but in any case, that is my review of that episode. On to the next one. Okay, so this episode, Muted Muriel, is actually pretty straightforward in its premise as well, because the episode just kind of sets up that Muriel gets tired of talking to Eustace about things. So, and for good reason, because this episode actually sets up with the fact that and this has kind of been a recurring thing throughout the series, but this episode just kind of brings highlight to the fact that Eustace never listens to Muriel, like, at all. So yeah, and it opens up with the idea that Muriel is trying to get Eustace to go to the store and get vinegar, but Eustace isn't listening to her at all. He's just going about silently reading his newspaper, and eventually Muriel gets so fed up with him not listening that she outright shouts his name at him, which causes Courage to startle awake and hit his head on the ceiling. And upon realizing what's going on, Courage immediately takes Muriel's side on this. But Muriel eventually does indeed start listening and asks her what she wants. And she tells her that he wants her to go and get vinegar for her. But he merely decides to not only not do that, but he then proceeds to turn on the TV, which only infuriates Muriel further, and she winds up standing in front of the TV until he listens to her, which he doesn't. And it's at this point where she finally vents her frustration with the fact that Eustace doesn't listen to her. She points out that he doesn't ever seem to listen to what she has to say, and Eustace merely remarks that he'd listen to what she had to say if she had things worth listening to. So she doesn't, which kind of upsets her. And she points out, and then she proceeds to point out that that's a very rude and unreasonable thing to say. But Eustace is still just not listening. He's trying to look at the TV around her and wonders if they make a remote that actually mutes people. At which point she decides that she doesn't have to bother, because she's just going to stop talking altogether. And he's not going to hear from her ever. So, and with that, she just kind of shuts up and stops talking, much to Courage's chagrin, and he even points out that this is a problem, but she merely remarks that clearly her voice isn't welcome in the house, so she decides that she's just going to save her breath and not talk ever. So yeah, you can see the problem with that. Courage becomes increasingly concerned about the fact that Muriel isn't talking, and while Eustace is happy in the short term that Muriel is no longer talking to him, and he no longer has to listen to what Muriel has to say, breakfast rolls around and he realizes why it's a problem, because she's not actually willing to actually make breakfast for him anymore. She's completely shut him out and is decided to just take care to her own devices with with Eustace even asking Courage if she's actually started talking yet, he obviously responds no, but he really remarks that she's not making any breakfast and is clearly not listening. So and Eustace eventually realizing that Muriel's not going to make him breakfast, actually leaves to go get breakfast himself, while Courage runs down to try and persuade Muriel to actually start talking again and actually make breakfast for the rest of the family, which Muriel just solemnly nods, pointing out without actually speaking that she's not going to make breakfast for anybody, and that she's just going to stay in the basement and practice her sitar forever. All without speaking, might I should mention. This entire episode, she portrays this entire thing without speaking. So Courage, in desperation, actually calls Dr. Vindaloo and tries to get his input on the matter, and Dr. Vindaloo isn't really able to help. He's actually currently in the process of shaving himself for his morning routine, but he remarks that if Muriel isn't going to speak and tell him what's wrong, then there's nothing else he can do. So he tells Courage that the only way he's actually going to be able to solve the problem is with magic, and then chuckles to himself at how silly a thought that is, and then proceeds to hang up on Courage. At which point Courage realizes he knows somebody who actually can help, because he actually knows somebody who can practice magic. So he goes to Shirley's caravan and asks her to help him with the Muriel situation. And Shirley completely understands why Courage is upset and why Muriel isn't actually, and realizing that it's a problem that Muriel isn't actually talking because she doesn't think there's anything worthwhile to say. She decides to actually summon a curse to actually get Muriel to talk instead. And what she does is she pulls out her saxophone first and foremost, because that's how she summons all of her curses, except for the one time it's Swindle and Wind. But she proceeds to pull out her saxophone and starts summoning a curse that she believes will actually get Muriel to actually speak. And so she summons a giant starfish from the bowels of the earth to just kind of go forward to the back farmhouse and completely decimate everything in its path. With Shirley remarking that Courage should probably get to Muriel before the giant starfish does, and he remarks that if Muriel doesn't actually speak, that the starfish will basically just destroy everything in its path. So Courage has to hurry and get Muriel to speak. So Courage kind of sort of thanks Shirley for her help, since obviously she summoned a giant monster to destroy everything. You obviously can't really justify that, but he does thank her for at least helping. In her own weird way, she does indeed help. So, Shirley merely remarks that he'll have to get back to the farmhouse before the starfish does, and offers transportation for a fee. So Courage lays a golden egg, which is apparently a thing he can do. So, and while Shirley is a little annoyed that that's not very big, but she remarks that it'll be fun. That's more than enough for her, and proceeds to give Courage a unicycle, and Courage proceeds to pedal back to the house, even running over a clown in the process. He actually runs over Clown's shoes, with the clown not noticing, because Clown's shoes are hollow as hell. They're literally not, like, a lot bigger than your feet would normally be. So obviously the clown doesn't feel any of that. Courage just runs over the toes of the shoes and doesn't hurt the clown in the slightest. But in any case, Courage does eventually manage to outpace the giant starfish and actually makes his way through town, which is mainly just there to showcase the destructive power of the giant starfish. The first victim it takes is actually D. Lung, who almost runs Courage over with his car and says his catchphrase, but then gets immediately flattened by the starfish. So, yay! That's a good thing, I think? Maybe? It's D. Lung, so we're obviously not supposed to like him. So, yeah, him getting flattened is kind of okay. The rest of the town, not so much. But, yeah, Courage does eventually manage to make his way back to the farmhouse and tries to tell Muriel what's going on, about how there's a giant starfish coming for the farm, and that the only thing that can stop it is Muriel's voice. And Muriel does go to say something, but then Eustace yells at her from upstairs to actually knock off the racket, pointing out that he doesn't want to listen to her hippie music, so she clams up again. Which Courage realizes is a bad thing because the starfish is literally on their property and is about to flatten the house. So he proceeds to actually pick up Muriel and bring her outside to try and show her the danger of the giant starfish. But Muriel still isn't listening, and also Eustace comes out at one point to once again complain about her sitar playing. But Then he notices the giant starfish and runs back inside to hide. At which point, Courage realizing he has no other option but to get Muriel to actually speak, decides to play on to use the one thing he knows will actually get her to talk. So what he does is he lays down in front of the giant starfish and hollers out her name as the starfish is about to flatten him. And Muriel, seeing Courage in danger and calling out to her for help, proceeds to actually get up and rush to him and call out his name in concern. Which causes the starfish to actually stop its assault and retreat back into the earth, with Muriel realizing that Courage is okay, and more to the point, she realizes that she was the one who ultimately defeated the giant starfish by just using her voice. Which finally gets her to realize that while Eustace may not listen to her, the things she has to say do indeed matter to some people. The giant starfish in this instance, but also to Courage when she realizes that Courage was the one who summoned the giant starfish in an effort to did something desperate in order to actually get her to talk. So she actually gives Courage a hug for finally opening her eyes to that, and then they go back inside, and Muriel proceeds to give Eustace an earful about how he's going to listen when she talks from now on, and Eustace can't really object to that because Courage actually wound up taping his mouth shut. So yeah, this episode is just a very important episode. I mean, obviously there's like the giant starfish thing, but the episode overall is just about you should always share your opinions, even if you don't think people are going to listen to you. I mean, I mean, it's more so a fact that what you have to say does matter. But yeah, this episode is just about Muriel thinking that what she has to say doesn't matter, and then it turns out they do matter. So that is ultimately the moral behind this episode. That even if you think nobody's listening to you, the things you have to say do indeed matter. So it's just a matter of finding the people who want to actually listen to you and actually think you and actually like what you have to say, because obviously not everybody is going to listen to you or agree with you. So it's just a matter of finding people you do think will agree with you. I mean, if you have some pretty shitty takes, then yeah, maybe not the best idea for people to be listening to you. But in general, the message is good. In general, the message is just it's just you don't be afraid to speak, even if people won't actually listen to you. Just share whatever your thoughts are, and that is the moral of the episode. But in any case, that's my review of Courage's Cowardly Dog. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Twitter in the description below. I actually post updates over there, so that's actually the best way you can actually check me out. And also, be sure to check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month. It does really help me out, and you guys get access to a bunch of cool perks that I'm always saying thanks. And it does help support future projects like this. So just go check that out. Link is down in the description as per usual. And finally, if you want to see more content from me, there's actually two ways you can do that. One is by checking out my Twitch down in the description. I stream every Sunday, 2:30 Eastern Standard Time, schedule permitting. And I'm also trying to fulfill a milestone. So just go follow me over there and just be sure to check that out. And also, be sure to check out both videos linked in the end screen. The top video is the most recent one, whereas the bottom video is based on what you've already seen from me. So yeah, just go check both of those videos out. And also be sure to just go check out my Discord again, because we are doing the grand finale of Courage Month down there, and I would very much like for you to actually watch the new movie along with me. I'll also be doing a review of it at some point later that day, so just be sure to go check that out. But in any case, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!